Young Mi stepped off the transport ship and onto the metal floor of Epsilon Station. Her single bag felt heavy in her hands as she looked around the massive docking bay. Alien ships of all sizes filled the space, their strange designs making her Earth transport look like a toy. The Galactic Military Academy sat at the heart of the station. Young Mi had dreamed of this moment for years, but now that she was here, fear crept into her stomach. She was the first human to attend the academy in over 200 years. The last human cadet had failed out in the first month. Welcome to your new hell, human. Young Mi turned to see a tall, blue-skinned alien in a crisp uniform. His name tag read, Commander Renth. His forearms were crossed, and his large black eyes stared down at her with clear disgust. "Thank you, sir," Young Mi sighed, trying to keep her voice steady. "Don't thank me yet. I voted against letting your kind back into this academy. Humans are weak, slow, and stupid. You'll be gone within a week." Commander Renth's voice was cold and sharp. "Follow me. Try not to get lost." Young Mi followed the commander through long metal hallways. Other cadets stopped to stare at her as they passed. Some pointed and whispered. Others just laughed. Young Mi had expected this, but it still hurt. "Your room is here," Commander Renth said, stopping at a door marked with strange alien symbols. "You'll share with Cadet Vex. He's from the warrior caste of Voltara. Try not to annoy him too much." The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was small and plain. 2 beds, 2 desks, and a small window showing the stars outside. A large, gray-skinned alien sat on one of the beds, sharpening what looked like a bone knife. "Vex, meet your new roommate," Commander Renth said with a nasty smile. "The human." Vex looked up from his knife. His red eyes studied Young Mi like she was an interesting bug. "This is the human everyone is talking about? She's smaller than I expected. Yes, well, enjoy your time together. It won't be long." Commander Renth left, the door sliding shut behind him. Young Mi stood in the doorway, unsure what to do. Vex, went back to sharpening his knife, ignoring her completely. She walked to the empty bed and set down her bag. "I'm Young Mi," she said. "I know who you are," Vex replied without looking up. "Everyone on the station knows. You're the pet human they let in as some kind of joke?" Young Mi felt her face grow hot, but she said nothing. She began unpacking her few belongings. A photo of her family on Earth, some clothes, and her father's old military tags. Her father had been a soldier too, back when Earth still had its own army. "What are those?" Vex asked, pointing at the metal tags. "My father's military identification. He served in the Earth Defense Force before we joined the Galactic Union." Vex laughed. "Earth had an army? What did you fight with, rocks and sticks?" "Bullets and bombs, mostly," Young Mi said quietly. "How primitive." Vex put away his knife and stood up. He was nearly 3 feet taller than Young Mi, with muscles that looked like they could crush steel. "Listen, human. I didn't ask for a roommate, especially not one from a backward planet. Stay out of my way, and maybe you'll survive the first week." Young Mi nodded. She had dealt with bullies before, back in basic training on Earth. The key was to not show fear, even when you felt it. The next morning came too soon. Young Mi woke to the sound of a loud alarm. Vex was already up and dressed in his cadet uniform. The gray jumpsuit looked too small on his large frame. "Breakfast is in 10 minutes, Vex said. "Don't be late, they hate that here." Young Mi quickly put on her own uniform and followed Vex to the dining hall. The room was huge, filled with long tables and hundreds of alien cadets. The noise was incredible, dozens of different languages mixing together in a symphony of sound. Young Mi got in line for food, trying not to stare at the other cadets. There were tall, thin aliens with too many arms, short, round ones covered in fur, some that looked like giant insects, and others she couldn't even describe. "Look what we have here," a voice said behind her. Young Mi turned to see 3 alien cadets. The one in front had green skin and sharp teeth. "The famous human. I thought you'd be bigger." "Maybe she's still growing," said another, laughing. "What do humans eat anyway?" "Garbage," Youngmi ignored them and moved forward in line. The food looked strange, purple paste, green cubes, and something that might have been meat. She took small portions of everything, not wanting to seem picky. Finding a place to sit was harder. Every table she approached suddenly became full. Finally, she found an empty spot at the end of a long table. She ate in silence while alien conversations flowed around her. "You're the human cadet." Young Mi looked up to see a young alien sitting across from her. He had pale skin and black hair, almost human-like except for his slightly pointed ears and silver eyes. "I'm Taeho," he said. "My father is the human ambassador to the Galactic Council." "You're human?" Young Mi asked, surprised. "Half human. My mother was from Earth, but she died when I was young. I grew up on Centauri Prime." Taeho's voice was sad. "I've been here for 2 years. It doesn't get easier." "Thanks for the warning," Young Mi said. "I'm not trying to scare you. Just ... Be careful. Some of the instructors here really don't like humans. They think we're a mistake that should have been left on Earth." Before Young Mi could ask what he meant, another alarm sounded. All around them, cadets began standing up and filing out of the dining hall. "Time for morning training," Taeho said. "Good luck." Young Mi followed the crowd to a massive training hall. Hundreds of cadets stood in perfect lines, facing a raised platform where several alien instructors waited. One of them stepped forward. A huge alien with blue skin and 4 arms, just like Commander Renth, but even bigger. "I am Instructor Koval," his voice boomed across the hall. "For the next year, I will be responsible for your combat training. Many of you will fail, some of you will be injured. A few might even die. This is acceptable. Only the strong deserve to serve in the galactic military." His eyes found Young Mi in the crowd. "We have a special guest with us this year, a human cadet. I'm sure she will provide us with much entertainment before she inevitably fails and returns to her primitive home world." Laughter rippled through the hall. Young Mi felt hundreds of eyes staring at her, but she kept her face blank. She had learned long ago not to give bullies the reaction they wanted. "Today we begin with basic combat assessment," Instructor Koval continued. "Each of you will face me in single combat for 30 seconds. I will evaluate your natural abilities and assign your training group accordingly." Young Mi's stomach dropped. She had trained in martial arts on Earth, but she was nowhere near ready to fight an alien instructor who was twice her size and had 4 arms. One by one, cadets stepped forward to face Instructor Koval. Most lasted less than 10 seconds before being thrown to the ground. Even the largest, strongest aliens were no match for his speed and power. Finally, it was Young Mi's turn. She walked forward on shaking legs, trying to remember everything her father had taught her about fighting bigger opponents. "The human," Instructor Koval said, smiling with too many teeth. "This should be quick." Young Mi raised her hands in a defensive position. Around her, she could hear cadets laughing and making bets on how quickly she would fall. Instructor Koval moved faster than she expected. His first punch would have knocked her unconscious if she hadn't ducked at the last second. His second punch caught her in the shoulder, spinning her around and sending her stumbling. 5 seconds, someone called out. New record for fastest. Failure, but Young Mi didn't fall. She rolled with the punch, using the momentum to put distance between herself and the instructor. It was a move her father had taught her. When facing a stronger opponent, use their strength against them. Instructor Koval looked surprised that she was still standing. He came at her again, this time with all 4 arms swinging. Young Mi dodged the first 3 punches, but the 4th caught her in the ribs, knocking the wind out of her. 20 seconds, the instructor said. Better than I expected. Young Mi struggled to breathe, but she stayed on her feet. She had made it longer than most of the other cadets, even if she hadn't landed a single hit. Interesting, Instructor Koval said quietly, studying her with new eyes. Perhaps humans are not completely worthless after all. The hall fell silent. No one had expected the human to last the full 30 seconds. Young Mi walked back to her place in line, trying not to limp. Her ribs ached and her shoulder throbbed, but she felt a small spark of pride. She had survived her first test. Not bad, human, Vex whispered as she passed him. Not bad at all. The second week at the academy was harder than young me had imagined. Every day brought new challenges designed for alien physiology that her human body struggled to handle. In the gravity training chamber, young me watched as other cadets easily adjusted to different planetary conditions. When the gravity increased to 3 times Earth normal, the large Valthic cadets barely noticed. Young me felt like she was carrying a mountain on her back. "Move faster, human!" Instructor Koval shouted as young me crawled across the training floor. "My grandmother could move quicker, and she's been dead for 50 years. The other cadets laughed as young me struggled to complete the obstacle course. Her muscles screamed in pain, but she refused to quit. Each step was agony, but she kept moving forward. By the time she finished, most of the other cadets had completed the course 3 times. Young me collapsed at the finish line, gasping for air. "Pathetic," Instructor Koval said, looking down at her. "Perhaps we should send you back to Earth before you embarrass yourself further." Young me forced herself to stand up. "I'm not quitting, sir. We'll see about that." The energy weapons training was even worse. The plasma rifles were designed for alien hands with different finger layouts. Young me's human hands were too small to properly grip the weapons, and her aim was terrible. "How did humans ever fight wars with accuracy like that?" asked Cadet Juno, a tall insect-like alien with compound eyes. "Did you just spray bullets everywhere and hope for the best?" "Something like that," young me muttered, trying to adjust. Her grip on the rifle. Her shot went wide, missing the target completely. The scoring computer announced her results in a mechanical voice. Accuracy, 12%. Ranking, last place out of 437 cadets. More laughter filled the training range. Young me's face burned with embarrassment, but she loaded another energy pack and tried again. This time she hit the edge of the target. "Progress," she whispered to herself. After weapons training came tactical simulations. Young me sat in a pod that connected directly to her brain, allowing her to control virtual spaceships and soldiers. The simulations were incredibly realistic, but they assumed the user had alien reflexes and thinking patterns. In her first simulation, young me was supposed to command a squad of virtual soldiers in capturing an enemy base. The other cadets finished the mission in minutes. Young me's squad was wiped out before she even understood the controls. "Human brain processing is too slow for modern warfare," declared Instructor Val, a thin alien with gray skin and large eyes. "Your species thinks in straight lines while galactic combat requires multidimensional strategy?" Young me ran the simulation again and again. Each time, her squad died quickly. But with each failure, she learned something new about the controls and the enemy patterns. "Why do you keep trying?" asked Cadet Bora, a short alien covered in orange fur. "Everyone knows humans can't handle advanced simulations." "Because I want to get better," young me said, starting the simulation for the 10th time. This time, instead of trying to copy the tactics she had seen other cadets use, young me tried something different. She remembered stories her father had told her about Earth military history. Instead of attacking the enemy base directly, she had her virtual squad split up and attack from multiple directions. It worked. Her squad captured the base with minimal losses. "Interesting approach, Instructor," Vel said, studying the results. "Primitive but effective." Young me smiled. It was the first compliment she had received since arriving at the academy. That evening in the dining hall, young me sat alone as usual. The other cadets gave her a wide berth, treating her like she had some kind of disease. She was getting used to the isolation, but it still hurt. "Mind if I sit here?" Young me looked up to see Teho standing with his food tray. Behind him was a young alien woman with blue skin and white hair. "Please," young me said, grateful for the company. "This is Hyjin," Teho said as they sat down. "She works in the communications department." Hyjin nodded politely. "I've been monitoring your progress in the training programs. Your improvement rate is remarkable." "My improvement rate?" young me asked. "Most cadets plateau after the first week. Their scores stay roughly the same throughout their first month. But your scores have increased every single day, even though they started very low. Young me felt a small spark of pride. I had a lot of room for improvement. More than that, Haijin said quietly. You're learning to adapt human techniques. To alien technology, that's not something we see very often. Is that good or bad? I'm not sure yet, Haijin admitted. But it's definitely interesting. After dinner, young me returned to her room to find Vex cleaning his weapons. He had an impressive collection of knives, swords, and other bladed weapons spread across his desk. How was training today? He asked without looking up. Better, young me. Sighed, I managed to complete one of the tactical simulations. Which one? Base Assault Scenario 7? Vex stopped cleaning his knife and looked at her. That's a third-year simulation. You shouldn't even have access to that one? Instructor Vel said I could try the advanced scenarios since I was having trouble with the basic ones, and you completed it? Yes. Vex was quiet for a long moment. How? Youngmi sat on her bed and thought about how to explain it. The simulation assumed I would attack the base from the front like most alien tactics require. But humans learned to fight differently on Earth. We had to use surprise and misdirection because we were usually outnumbered or outgunned. So you cheated. No, I just used different tactics. Vex resumed cleaning his knife, but Youngmi could tell he was thinking about what she had said. The next morning brought hand-to-hand combat training. This was the part Youngmi had been dreading most. The other cadets were all bigger, stronger, and faster than her. Many of them had natural weapons, like claws, spikes, or poisonous skin. Today we practice basic combat forms, Instructor Koval announced. Partner with another cadet and practice the techniques I demonstrate. Young Mi found herself paired with Cadet Rex, a massive alien who looked like a cross between a bear and a rhinoceros. He had thick armor plates covering his skin and claws, the size of kitchen knives. Try not to hurt the human too badly, Instructor Koval said with a cruel smile. We want her to last at least another few days. Rex grinned, showing teeth like broken glass. I'll be gentle. The first technique was a simple punch-block counter combination. Rex's punch came at Youngmi like a sledgehammer. She tried to block it the way Instructor Koval had demonstrated, but Rex's strength was overwhelming. The impact sent her flying backward into the wall. Weak, Rex said as Youngmi picked herself up. Try again, they repeated the exercise dozens of times. Each time, Youngmi was knocked down or thrown across the room. By the end of the session, she was covered in bruises and could barely stand. Perhaps the humans should try a less demanding activity, suggested Instructor Koval. Cooking, perhaps. Or cleaning. Youngmi wiped blood from her split lip. I want to keep training, sir. Your choice. But I won't be responsible when you end up in the medical bay. That night, Youngmi lay in her bed, every muscle in her body aching. She thought about her father's stories of military training on Earth. He had always said that the key to surviving tough training was to learn from each failure. What did you learn today? She asked herself quietly. The answer came slowly. She had learned that trying to match alien strength with human strength was impossible. But she had also noticed things about her opponents that they might not realize. Rex was incredibly strong, but he was also slow and predictable. He always attacked the same way, using brute force instead of technique. Maybe there was a different approach. Youngmi spent the next hour doing quiet exercises in her bed, practicing movements her father had taught her. Earth martial arts focused on using an opponent's strength and momentum against them. Instead of blocking Rex's punches, maybe she should try to redirect them. What are you doing? Vex asked from his bed. Practicing. You're moving your arms around like an insect having a seizure. Youngmi stopped. It's called martial arts. My father taught me some basic techniques. Does it work? Against humans, yes. Against aliens, ... Youngmi shrugged. I guess I'll find out tomorrow. Vex was quiet for a moment. Show me. What? Show me these martial arts. I want to see how humans fight. Youngmi got out of bed, despite her aching muscles. She demonstrated some basic forms, blocks, strikes, and throws, designed to work against larger opponents. Interesting, Vex said when she finished. Very different from Valthic combat styles. We rely on strength and aggression. Your techniques seem more clever. My father said that humans had to be clever because we weren't the strongest or fastest. Species on Earth, what did you fight on your planet? Young me thought about it. Each other, mostly, but also large predators. Bears, big cats, sharks in the ocean. Things that could kill us easily if we fought them directly. And you survived by being clever. We survived by working together and using our brains? Vex nodded slowly. Perhaps there is more to humans than I thought. The next day, young me faced Rex again in combat training. This time, when he threw his massive punch, she didn't try to block it. Instead, she stepped to the side and used his momentum to throw him off balance. Rex stumbled forward, surprised. Lucky move, he growled, charging at. Young Mi's third week at the academy marked a turning point. While other cadets relied on their natural advantages and advanced technology, she began developing her own methods that mixed human ingenuity with alien resources. In the engineering workshop, Young Mi studied the standard issue equipment while other cadets practiced with energy weapons and force shields. The aliens took these tools for granted, but Young Mi saw possibilities they missed. What are you doing with that broken scanner? Asked Cadet Nabi, a tall alien with green skin and 6 arms. Young Mi held up the damaged device. This power cell still works, and the metal casing is really strong. I think I can make something useful. It's garbage. Throw it away. But Young Mi kept working. Using techniques her father had taught her about improvised weapons, she combined the broken scanner with spare parts from other damaged equipment. After 2 hours of careful work, she had created a small but effective electromagnetic pulse device. Interesting, said Professor Dalsu, appearing behind her. He was an elderly alien with wrinkled gray skin and wise eyes. Most cadets just use whatever they're given. You're creating new tools? My father always said that good soldiers make do with what they have, Young Mi replied. Your father sounds like a wise man. I teach tactical theory here. Perhaps you'd like to attend some of my advanced classes? Young Mi was surprised. I'm still struggling with the basic courses, Professor. Basic courses teach you to use existing solutions. Advanced tactics teach you to create new ones. I think you might find them more suitable to your way of thinking. That afternoon, Young Mi attended Professor Dalsu's class on military history. The classroom was filled with senior cadets who had been at the academy for years. They stared at her with confusion and some annoyance. Today we're studying the Battle of Kepler Station, Professor Dalsu announced. The Galactic fleet had superior numbers and firepower, but they still lost to a smaller rebel force. Can anyone tell me why? Several cadets raised their hands with standard answers about tactical positioning and supply lines. Professor Dalsu nodded politely but didn't seem satisfied. Young Mi, he said suddenly, what do you think happened? Young Mi felt all eyes turned to her. She studied the battle data on the main screen, looking for patterns the others had missed. The rebels didn't fight the way the fleet expected them to, she said slowly. The fleet used standard formation attacks, but the rebels split into small groups and attacked weak points. They made the fleet size work against them. Excellent. And why did this strategy work? Because the fleet commanders assumed their enemies would fight honorably, using accepted military doctrine. When the rebels used guerrilla tactics instead, the fleet didn't know how to respond. Professor Dalsu smiled. Precisely. The rebels understood that rules of warfare only matter if both sides follow them. Sometimes the best strategy is to refuse to play by your enemy's rules. After class, several senior cadets approached Young Mi. She expected mockery, but their expressions were thoughtful. Where did you learn about guerrilla warfare? Asked Cadet Minho, a fourth-year student with silver skin and 4 eyes. Earth military history. Humans fought a lot of wars against stronger enemies. We had to get creative to survive. Could you teach us some of these tactics? Asked another. Cadet Young Mi was shocked. You want to learn from me? Professor Dalsu is right, Minho said. Most of us only know standard galactic fleet doctrine. Your perspective might be useful? That evening, young Mi found herself in an empty training room with a dozen senior cadets. She felt nervous teaching aliens who had years more experience than her, but they listened carefully as she explained basic human military concepts. This is called a pincer movement, young Mi said, drawing diagrams on the wall display. Instead of attacking head-on, you split your forces and attack from two sides at once. The enemy has to divide their attention and firepower. But this requires precise timing, observed Cadet Su Jin, a small alien with blue fur. How do you coordinate without quantum communication systems? Humans use simpler methods. Signal flags, radio waves, even smoke signals. The key is having a plan everyone understands before the battle starts. The senior cadets practiced these techniques in simulation programs. To young Mi's amazement, many of the human tactics worked even with advanced alien technology. The simplicity that seemed primitive actually made them harder for enemy computers to predict and counter. This is remarkable, Minho said after successfully completing a simulation using human-inspired tactics. These strategies are so basic that our AI systems don't even consider them. Word of young Mi's informal teaching sessions spread quickly through the academy. Soon, cadets from all years were asking to learn about human military history. Young Mi found herself with a reputation she never expected, but not everyone was pleased with her growing influence. I hear you've been filling our cadets' heads with primitive nonsense, Instructor Koval said during combat training the next day. Teaching them to fight like savages instead of civilized soldiers. I'm just sharing different perspectives, sir, young Mi replied carefully. Different perspectives. Koval's voice dripped with sarcasm. Let's see how well your perspectives work in real combat. He activated the advanced training program, setting the difficulty to maximum. Young Mi found herself facing virtual enemies that moved faster and hit harder than anything she had encountered before, but instead of panicking, young Mi applied the lessons she had been teaching others. She didn't try to match her enemy's speed or strength. Instead, she used the environment against them, turning their aggression into vulnerabilities. When a virtual warrior charged at her with an energy sword, young Mi dodged at the last second and caused him to run into a wall. When another enemy fired an energy cannon, she used a broken piece of debris as a shield and then threw it back at the shooter. The simulation ended with young Mi victorious, though exhausted. The training room was completely silent. Lucky, Instructor Koval said finally, but his voice lacked conviction. Maybe, young Mi agreed. But my father always said that good soldiers make their own luck. In the following days, young Mi noticed changes in how other cadets approached their training. They began experimenting with unconventional tactics and improvised weapons. Some instructors were annoyed by this departure from standard doctrine, but others seemed intrigued that young Mi's endurance training also improved dramatically. While aliens had superior burst strength and speed, humans had evolved for persistence and endurance. Young Mi discovered that she could outlast opponents who seemed much stronger than her during a particularly brutal exercise where cadets had to carry heavy equipment across a long obstacle course. Young Mi watched as the larger aliens started strong but faded quickly. She maintained a steady pace, and by the end of the course she was passing aliens who had been far ahead of her. How are you still moving? Gasped Rex, the massive alien who had dominated her in early combat training. He was sitting on the ground, breathing heavily. I pace myself, young Mi said, helping him to his feet. Humans are built for endurance, not speed. That's actually useful to know, Rex admitted. Young Mi's relationship with her roommate Vex also evolved. He began asking her questions about human culture and military history. In return, he taught her about Valthic combat techniques and philosophy. Your species is strange, Vex said one evening as they studied together. Valthic warriors believe in overwhelming force and quick victories, but humans seem to prefer long, complicated strategies. Maybe that's because humans usually couldn't win quick victories, young Mi suggested. We had to be patient and wait for the right opportunities. But that requires great mental discipline. How do you stay focused during long campaigns? Young me thought about it. I guess we learned that survival was more important than glory. Better to win slowly than to lose quickly. Vex nodded slowly. There is wisdom in that philosophy. As the weeks passed, young me began to understand that her value at the academy wasn't in becoming like the aliens, but in offering something different. Her human perspective provided solutions that alien minds might never consider. She started keeping a journal of human military techniques that might be adapted for galactic warfare. Guerrilla tactics, psychological warfare, improvised weapons, endurance strategies, all the methods humans had developed over thousands of years of conflict. You're creating quite a stir, Hyjin told her during one of their meetings in the communications center. Several instructors have been asking for copies of your tactical notes. Is that good or bad? I'm not sure yet. Some see value in your unconventional approaches. Others think you're disrupting good order and discipline. What do you think? Hyjin smiled. I think the galaxy could use more disruption. We've been doing things the same way for centuries. Maybe it's time for some new ideas. Young Mi looked out the window at the stars beyond the station. Somewhere out there was Earth, her home planet full of humans who had survived and thrived, despite being smaller and weaker than most galactic species. Maybe that experience was exactly what the galaxy needed. In the combat simulator that week, young Mi faced her most challenging opponent yet, a virtual recreation of a champion Valthic warrior. The program was designed to be unbeatable, used only to demonstrate superior alien. By her 4th week at the academy, young Mi's success had begun to attract the wrong kind of attention. What started as curiosity about human tactics had evolved into something that threatened the established order. Instructor Koval's training sessions became increasingly dangerous. Equipment that should have been set to safe levels mysteriously malfunctioned when young Mi used it. Training exercises that were supposed to be non-lethal suddenly involved live ammunition. Careful with that plasma rifle, human, Koval said during weapons training, handing her a rifle that felt unusually hot. The safety systems have been ... dated. Young Mi examined the weapon carefully. The power readings were far above normal training levels. A mistake with this rifle could kill her. Sir, I think there might be a problem with this weapon, she said. Are you questioning my equipment inspection, Cadet? No, sir, but the power coupling seems... Fire the weapon, Cadet. That's an order. Young Mi felt every eye in the training facility watching her. She could refuse the order and be expelled for insubordination, or she could trust that Koval wouldn't actually let her die during training. She aimed at the target and pulled the trigger. The rifle exploded in her hands. Young Mi threw herself backward as superheated plasma scattered across the training range. Her quick reflexes saved her life, but the explosion burned her hands and arms. Several other cadets dove for cover as molten metal flew through the air. Training accident, Koval announced calmly as medics rushed to help young Mi. These things happen with primitive minds trying to handle advanced technology, but Tejo had seen everything. As the medics treated young Mi's burns, he whispered urgently in her ear. That wasn't an accident. Someone sabotaged that rifle. Can you prove it? Young Mi asked through gritted teeth. Not without access to the equipment logs. And even then ... double quotes. Tejo shook his head. Koval has friends in high places. The medical bay was a cold, sterile place filled with alien healing technology. Young Mi lay on a treatment table while machines repaired the damage to her hands and arms. The burns would heal, but the message was clear. You're becoming a problem, said a voice from the doorway. Young Mi turned to see Commander Renth approaching her bed. His forearms were folded behind his back and his expression was even colder than usual. I don't understand, sir, young Mi said. Don't play innocent with me, human. Your little tactical discussions have spread throughout the academy. Cadets are questioning established doctrine. Instructors are reporting discipline problems. Oh, because one primitive human thinks she knows better than centuries of galactic military wisdom. I was just sharing what I learned on Earth. Earth! Renth's voice was full of disgust. A backward planet that couldn't even defend itself without galactic intervention. And now you think your savage fighting techniques are superior to our advanced methods? Young Mi carefully controlled her anger. I never said they were superior, sir. Just different. Different. Renth moved closer to her bed. Let me explain something to you, Cadet. The galactic military maintains order across 1,000 worlds. We've prevented wars that could have destroyed entire species. This peace exists because we follow proven methods and established hierarchies. I understand, sir. Do you? Because your very presence here threatens that order. When cadets start thinking that primitive human tactics are valid alternatives to proper training, it creates doubt. Doubt leads to chaos. Renth leaned over her bed, his black eyes staring down at her. I want you gone, human. Find an excuse to leave or I'll find one for you. After Renth left, Young Mi lay in the medical bay thinking about what he had said. Part of her wanted to leave. Life at the academy was becoming dangerous, and she was tired of being treated like a threat to galactic civilization, but another part of her, the part that came from her father's military blood, refused to quit. How are you feeling? Young Mi looked up to see Vex standing beside her bed. His usual aggressive demeanor was replaced by what looked like genuine concern. Like I've been blown up, Young Mi said with a weak smile. The weapon was sabotaged, Vex said quietly. I examined the wreckage after the medics took you away. Someone overloaded the power coupling and disabled the safety systems. Can you prove it? No, but I know weapons and I know Koval. He's done this before to cadets he wanted to eliminate. Young Mi was shocked. He's tried to kill other students. Not kill, exactly. But he's very good at creating accidents that force cadets to quit. Or transfer out. Usually it works because most species know when they're beaten. But humans are too stupid to quit? Vex actually smiled, something like that. That evening, despite her injuries, Young Mi attended Professor Delsu's advanced tactics class. Her bandaged hands made taking notes difficult, but she was determined not to miss any classes. Today we're studying asymmetric warfare, Professor Delsu announced. Conflicts where opposing forces have very different capabilities and must adapt accordingly. He brought up a holographic display showing a famous battle from galactic history. The Zenta Rebellion lasted 15 years, despite the rebels being outnumbered 100 to 1. They won by refusing to fight conventional battles. Young Mi studied the display carefully. The rebel tactics looked familiar, hit-and-run attacks, sabotage, psychological warfare. They were remarkably similar to strategies humans had used throughout their history. Professor, she said, raising her bandaged hand. The rebels were using guerrilla tactics, avoiding direct confrontation and attacking supply lines instead. Correct. And why was this strategy effective? Because the Imperial forces were trained for conventional warfare. When the rebels changed the rules, the Imperials couldn't adapt quickly enough. Excellent analysis. Professor Dalsu looked thoughtful. Young Mi, would you mind staying after class? I'd like to discuss something with you. After the other students left, Professor Dalsu activated a privacy screen around his desk. I heard about your accident in weapons training. It wasn't an accident, was it? Young Mi asked. Probably not. You've made some powerful enemies here, Young Mi. People who see your success as a threat to everything they believe about galactic superiority. So I should quit? That depends. How important is this to you? Young Mi thought about her father, about Earth, about all the humans who would come after her. Very important. Then you need to be smarter about how you proceed. Koval and Renth aren't just going to let you graduate peacefully. They'll keep escalating until they force you out or... He didn't finish the sentence. What do you suggest? Professor Dalsu was quiet for a long moment. Document everything. Keep records of the sabotage, the unfair treatment, the dangerous training conditions. And most importantly, keep proving that human methods have value. How do I do that when they control all the training exercises? By being so good that they can't ignore you. By succeeding despite their interference. By showing the other cadets that there's more than one way to be a soldier. That night, Young Mi lay in her bed making plans. She couldn't fight Koval and Renth directly. They had too much power and authority. But she could fight them the way humans had always fought superior enemies. She would be patient. She would adapt. And she would never give them the satisfaction of seeing her quit. "You're planning something," Vex observed from his bed. "What makes you say that?" "You have the same expression my grandfather had before he led the assault on the Tarian fortresses. It's the look of someone who has decided to win at any cost." Young Mi smiled in the darkness. "Maybe I am." Over the next few days, Young Mi noticed that her success in Professor Dalsu's class had attracted attention from other instructors. Some watched her with curiosity, others with suspicion. But for the first time since arriving at the academy, she felt like some of the faculty were actually interested in what she had to offer. Instructor Hana, who taught xenobiology, asked Young Mi to stay after class to discuss human evolutionary adaptations. Instructor Park from the engineering department wanted to know more about human tool-making techniques. "Your species has some unique characteristics," Instructor Hannah explained as they examined holographic displays of various alien anatomies. "Most galactic species evolved on worlds with abundant resources and few natural predators, but Earth was different." "How so?" "Humans evolved under constant pressure. Climate changes, predators, resource scarcity, competing with other intelligent species. It forced your people to become incredibly adaptable." Young Mi studied the displays showing human anatomy compared to various alien species. Humans were smaller and physically weaker than most, but their brains were proportionally larger and their nervous systems more flexible. "Is that why human tactics seem to work differently?" she asked, partially. "But it's more than that. Most alien species develop specialized advantages, superior strength, enhanced senses, natural weapons. Humans develop general problem-solving abilities instead. So we're the generalists in a galaxy of specialists?" "Exactly. And that makes you both valuable and threatening. Specialists don't like being reminded that their specializations might not always be the best solution." This conversation gave Young Mi new insight into the resistance she faced. It wasn't just xenophobia or military tradition. It was the fear that human adaptability might make alien specializations obsolete, but it also gave her hope. If humans truly were natural. The Academy's annual combat proficiency examination was only 2 weeks away, and Young Mi could feel the tension building. Every cadet would face a series of tests designed to evaluate their readiness for real military service. The final test was single combat against an instructor. Young Mi knew she would face Instructor Koval. "The examination is supposed to be challenging but fair," Hyjin explained during one of their private meetings in the communications center. "But I've been monitoring the preparation protocols and something doesn't feel right." "What do you mean?" "Koval has been accessing advanced combat simulations, studying human anatomy data, and reviewing footage of your training sessions. He's preparing for you specifically." Young Mi felt a chill run down her spine. "Is that normal? Instructors usually just review basic techniques before examinations." "This level of preparation suggests ... Hyjin hesitated. "It suggests he's planning to do more than just test your skills." That evening, Young Mi found Professor Dalsu working late in his office. She knocked quietly on his door. "Young Mi, come in. I was hoping to speak with you." He gestured to a chair across from his desk. "I assume you know about your upcoming examination?" "Yes, sir. I'll be facing Instructor Koval." "Indeed. And I suspect you're aware that this won't be a standard evaluation." Young Mi nodded. "Hyjin thinks he's planning something." Professor Dalsu activated his privacy screen and leaned forward. "Young Mi, I'm going to tell you something that could get me dismissed from this academy. There are forces here that want you to fail, not just as a student, but as a symbol. Your success threatens their worldview." "I understand that, sir. Do you?" "Because I'm not talking about simple prejudice anymore. Commander Renth has been in contact with officials from several member worlds. Your presence here has become a political issue that extends far beyond this academy." Young Mi felt the weight of responsibility settling on her shoulders. "What are you saying?" I'm saying that your examination with Koval isn't just about your graduation. It's about whether humans will be accepted as equals in galactic society, or dismissed as an evolutionary mistake. The professor pulled up a holographic display showing Youngmi's training records. You've improved remarkably during your time here. Your tactical scores are in the top 10%. Your engineering marks are excellent, and your leadership evaluations are outstanding. But none of that will matter if you lose to Koval. A defeat would be used as proof that humans aren't fit for military service. Every cadet who's been inspired by your methods would go back to standard doctrine. Every instructor who's begun to respect human tactics would dismiss them as curiosities. Youngmi stared at the data floating in front of her. No pressure then? Professor Dalsu smiled grimly. I'm afraid not. But I didn't call you here to add to your stress. I called you here to help. He activated another display, this one showing detailed anatomical data on Valthic physiology. If you're going to face Koval in combat, you need to understand exactly what you're up against. For the next hour, Professor Dalsu explained the strengths and weaknesses of Valthic biology. Their forearms provided incredible striking power and defensive capability, but their nervous system had limitations that a clever opponent could exploit. Valthic warriors are trained from childhood to rely on their natural advantages, the professor explained. Superior strength, multiple limbs, enhanced reflexes. But this training creates predictable patterns. What kind of patterns? They expect their opponents to be intimidated by their size and power. They're used to winning fights quickly through overwhelming force. They've never learned to fight a patient, adaptive opponent. Youngmi studied the data carefully. So their strength is also their weakness. Exactly. And there's something else. Professor Dalsu highlighted specific nerve clusters on the anatomical display. Valthic physiology includes several pressure points that can temporarily disrupt their coordination, but you'd need precise timing and positioning to exploit them. You're teaching me how to fight dirty. I'm teaching you how to fight smart. There's a difference. Over the following days, Youngmi threw herself into preparation with an intensity that surprised even her. She studied every piece of data she could find about Valthic combat techniques, analyzed recordings of Koval's previous examination fights, and practiced the precise movements Professor Dalsu had shown her. Vex became her unofficial training partner, helping her develop techniques that could work against a four-armed opponent. You're not strong enough to block his attacks directly, Vex observed during one of their practice sessions. But you're fast enough to avoid them. Use that speed to create openings. Easier said than done when he has four arms to my two. Of it differently, four arms means four potential targets. If you can disrupt one limb, it affects his balance and coordination for all the others. Youngmi practiced the techniques until they became automatic. Duck, weave, strike at pressure points, use momentum against him. It was like a deadly dance that required perfect timing. But she also knew that technique alone wouldn't be enough. She needed to understand Koval psychologically as well as physically. He's a bully, Teho said during one of their study sessions. I've watched him for 2 years. He enjoys intimidating weaker opponents. He'll try to make you afraid before the fight even starts. How do I counter that? Don't give him the reaction he expects. Bullies rely on fear to maintain their power. If you're not afraid, it disrupts their psychological advantage. Youngmi thought about her father's stories of military training. He had always said that courage wasn't the absence of fear, but the ability to function despite it. 3 days before the examination, Youngmi received an unexpected visitor. Commander Renth appeared at her dormitory room while Vex was out training. Cadet Youngmi, walk with me. It wasn't a request. Youngmi followed the commander through the academy's corridors to an observation deck overlooking the main training facilities. Through the transparent walls, they could see hundreds of cadets practicing various combat techniques. Beautiful, isn't it? Renth said, gesturing at the scene below. Order, discipline, precision. This academy has produced military leaders for over 3 centuries. Yes, sir. Do you know what makes it work, Cadet? Youngmi sensed this was a test. Tradition and established procedures, sir. Unity of purpose. Every cadet learns the same methods, follows the same protocols, accepts the same values. This creates a military force that can operate seamlessly across the galaxy. Renth turned to face her directly. Your presence here threatens that unity. Your alternative methods create doubt and confusion. Cadets begin to question whether the old ways are truly the best ways. I never intended to cause problems, sir. Perhaps not, but intention is irrelevant. The result is the same. Renth moved closer, his forearms clasped behind his back. I'm going to make you an offer, Cadet. Withdraw from the Academy voluntarily, and you'll receive an honorable discharge. You can return to Earth with your dignity intact. And if I refuse? Then you'll face Instructor Koval in 3 days, and I suspect that encounter will not end well for you. Young Mi looked out at the training facilities below. She thought about all the cadets who had begun to see humans as more than primitive curiosities. She thought about her father and the pride in his eyes when she was accepted to the academy. Thank you for the offer, sir, but I'll take the examination. Renth's expression didn't change, but young Mi could sense his disappointment. Very well. But remember, Cadet, you chose this path. That night, young Mi lay in her bed reviewing everything she had learned about combat, tactics, and survival. Tomorrow would bring final preparations. In 3 days, she would face the most important fight of her life. Are you ready? Vex asked. From his bed, I don't know. How can anyone be ready for something like this? By remembering why you're fighting. This isn't just about proving yourself anymore. It's about proving that there's more than one way to be strong. Young Mi thought about that as she drifted off to sleep. More than one way to be strong. Maybe that was the most human concept of all. The next morning brought news that changed everything. Hyjin found young Mi after breakfast, her expression. Urgent. There's been a development, she said quietly. Word about your examination has reached Earth. The human government has sent an official observer. What does that mean? It means this fight just became a diplomatic event. Representatives from a dozen worlds will be watching. The results will influence human-alien relations for decades to come. Young Mi felt the weight of an entire species settling on her shoulders. She wasn't just fighting for herself anymore. She was fighting for every human who would ever want to serve alongside aliens as equals. No pressure, she muttered, echoing Professor Dalsu's earlier words, but as the reality of the situation sank in, young Mi felt something unexpected. Instead of more fear, she felt a strange sense of calm. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment, even if she hadn't known it. Her father's military training, her study of human history, her adaptation to alien technology and tactics. Everything had led to this point. In 3 days, she would show the galaxy what humans were really capable of. She was ready. The day of the combat proficiency examination arrived with unusual fanfare. Word had spread throughout the station that the human cadet would face Instructor Koval, and the main combat arena was packed with spectators. Young Mi sat in the preparation chamber, trying to control her breathing. Through the reinforced walls, she could hear the roar of the crowd. Hundreds of cadets, instructors, and visiting dignitaries had come to watch what many expected to be her humiliation. How are you feeling? Teho asked, sitting beside her on the bench. Terrified, young Mi admitted, but ready. Vex stood near the door, acting as her unofficial bodyguard. Over the past weeks, he had become fiercely protective of his human roommate. Remember what we practiced? He's strong, but he's predictable. Use that against him. Professor Dalsu entered the chamber, his expression grave. Young Mi, I need to tell you something. The examination rules have been modified. What do you mean? Normally, combat examinations last until one opponent yields or is incapacitated. But for your test, they've introduced a time limit of 10 minutes. If you can survive that long without yielding, you pass. Young Mi felt a moment of relief. That actually sounds easier. It's not, Professor Dalsu's voice was grim. Koval knows about the time limit too. He'll try to end the fight quickly and decisively. He won't hold back the way he might in a normal examination. The implications sank in. This wasn't just a test anymore. It was a potentially lethal encounter disguised as an academic exercise. There's something else, Professor Dalsu continued. The galactic news networks are broadcasting this live. Your performance today will be seen across dozens of worlds. Young Mi closed her eyes and thought about her father. What would he do? In this situation? The answer came immediately, his duty, regardless of the consequences. I'm ready, she said, standing up. The arena was larger than Young Mi had expected. The circular fighting space was surrounded by energy barriers that would contain the combat while allowing perfect visibility for the audience. Above them, massive screens displayed every angle of the arena for the thousands. Watching both in person and across the galaxy. Young-Mi entered from one side, wearing the standard Academy combat uniform. She carried no weapons. This would be a test of pure fighting skill. The crowd's reaction was mixed, some cheering, many laughing, others maintaining respectful silence. From the opposite entrance came Instructor Koval. He looked even more intimidating than usual. His forearms were bare, showing muscles that looked like they had been carved from stone. His blue skin gleamed under the arena lights, and his black eyes locked onto Young Mi with predatory intensity. The crowd fell silent as the two fighters approached the center of the arena. Cadet Young Mi, Koval's voice boomed across the space. I almost feel sorry for you, almost. Thank you for the consideration, sir, Young Mi replied, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The referee, a neutral alien from a species known for their fairness, explained the rules. This is a combat proficiency examination. The test ends when one fighter yields, is incapacitated, or 10 minutes have elapsed. Lethal force is prohibited, but serious injury is considered acceptable risk. Young Mi noticed the careful phrasing. Koval could hurt her badly as long as he didn't quite kill her. Fighters, take your positions. Young Mi moved to her starting position, trying to remember everything she had learned. Stay mobile, use his strength against him, be patient. Wait for opportunities. Koval positioned himself like a predator preparing to pounce. His forearms hung loose at his sides, ready to strike from multiple angles simultaneously. Begin! Koval moved faster than Young Mi had expected. His first attack came as a coordinated strike from all four arms, designed to overwhelm her defenses completely. Young Mi threw herself backward, barely avoiding the crushing blows. The crowd gasped as the air where she had been standing seemed to explode from the force of Koval's missed strikes. Running already? Koval taunted, advancing steadily. I expected at least 30 seconds of fight from the famous human. Laughter rippled through portions of the audience. Young Mi ignored it, focusing entirely on her opponent's movements. She needed to understand his patterns before she could counter them. Koval's second attack was even more violent. He charged forward, using two arms to block potential escape routes while the other two reached for Young Mi's throat. This time she couldn't dodge completely. One of his hands caught her shoulder, spinning her around and sending her stumbling. 2 minutes remaining. Someone in the crowd called out mockingly, but Young Mi had learned something important from that exchange. Koval's attacks were powerful but committed. When he struck with all four arms, there was a brief moment where he was off balance. The next time he charged, Young Mi was ready. Instead of trying to dodge all four attacks, she focused on deflecting. Just one. Using a technique her father had taught her, she redirected Koval's left-hand strike into his own right arm. Disrupting his coordination. For the first time, Koval looked surprised. Lucky, he growled, circling her like a predator. But Young Mi was beginning to see the fight differently. Koval wasn't just trying to defeat her, he was trying to humiliate her. He wanted to prove that humans were weak and pathetic in front of the galactic audience. That psychological need was a weakness she could exploit. Is that the best the Academy's combat instructor can do? Young Mi asked, loud enough for the crowd to hear. My grandmother hits harder than that. Koval's eyes flashed with anger. Your grandmother won't save you from this. His next attack was driven by rage rather than technique. All four arms came at Young Mi in a wild, uncontrolled assault. This time she was ready for his anger. Young Me ducked under his high strikes and moved inside his reach where his longer arms couldn't generate full power. She struck quickly at one of the pressure points Professor Dalsu had shown her, a nerve cluster just below Koval's lower left elbow. The effect was immediate. Koval's left arm went temporarily numb, throwing off his balance and coordination. He stumbled backward, shaking his arm to restore feeling. The arena fell completely silent. The human had actually hurt the instructor. Impossible, Koval muttered, staring at his tingling arm. 5 minutes elapsed, the referee announced. 5 minutes remaining. Now Koval's approach changed completely. The mockery and casual cruelty were gone, replaced by serious combat focus. He had underestimated his opponent and nearly paid for it. He wouldn't make that mistake again. His next series of attacks were precise, professional, and devastatingly effective. Young Mi found herself constantly on the defensive, barely able to avoid the perfectly coordinated strikes. Her earlier success had been possible because Koval was playing with her. Now he was fighting for real. A punch to her ribs sent Young Mi sprawling across the arena floor. She rolled aside just in time to avoid Koval's follow-up stomp, which would have broken bones. Another strike caught her in the shoulder, spinning her around and leaving her arm numb. The crowd began to murmur. This was what they had expected to see. The human being systematically dismantled by superior alien technique, but Young Mi wasn't finished. As she struggled to her feet, she remembered something her father had told her about fighting stronger opponents. When you can't win through strength, win through endurance. When you can't win through speed, win through patience. When you can't win through skill, win through heart. Koval was stronger, faster, and more skilled. But Young Mi had something he didn't expect. She had spent her entire life preparing to fight opponents who were better than her in every measurable way, instead of trying to match his technique. Young Mi began fighting the way humans had always fought, like a cornered animal with nothing left to lose. She stopped trying to look graceful or skilled. Instead, she fought dirty, unpredictably, and with absolute determination. When Koval threw a perfect combination, she absorbed the hits and kept coming. When he tried to pin her down, she twisted and clawed her way free. 7 minutes elapsed, the referee called. Koval was breathing harder now. His perfect technique was being disrupted by an opponent who refused to follow the rules of civilized combat. Every time he thought he had her beaten, she found a way to continue fighting. "Stay down," he growled after knocking her to the ground for the 4th time. "No," Young Mi gasped, pulling herself upright once again, and that's when something shifted in the arena. The crowd, which had been laughing at the human struggles, began to appreciate something different. This wasn't about skill or technique anymore. This was about will. Koval threw his most powerful combination yet, putting all his strength behind a four-armed assault that should have ended the fight instantly. Young Mi saw it coming and made a decision that would change everything. Instead of dodging or blocking, she stepped directly into the attack. She took the full force of 3 of Koval's strikes, accepting devastating damage to land a single precise counterattack. Using momentum from his own blows, she struck the exact pressure point Professor Dalsu had taught her, hitting the nerve cluster that controlled coordination between Koval's upper and lower arms. The effect was more dramatic than she had hoped. Koval's nervous system, overwhelmed by the precisely targeted strike, sent conflicting signals to his limbs. His upper left arm, still recovering from the earlier nerve strike, collided with his lower right arm as the medical bay became the center of a diplomatic storm. Young Mi lay on a treatment bed, her injuries being repaired by advanced alien healing technology, while representatives from a dozen worlds argued in the hallway outside. She could hear fragments of heated conversation through the door. Unacceptable brutality. Clearly demonstrates human potential. Sets a dangerous precedent. Revolutionary implications for military doctrine. Hygiene slipped into the medical bay during a quiet moment. "How are you feeling?" "Like I've been hit by a transport ship," Young Mi said with a weak smile. "But alive. You're more than alive. You're famous. The recording of your fight has been broadcast across the galaxy." Some worlds are calling it the most important combat demonstration in centuries. Young Mi tried to sit up, wincing as her ribs protested. What about Instructor Koval? His arm will heal completely, though it will take several weeks, but young Mi ... Haijin's expression became serious. The academy is in chaos. Everything you did challenges fundamental assumptions about military training and species capabilities. Before Young Mi could respond, the door slid open to admit a stream of visitors. Vex entered first, followed by Teho, Professor Dalsu, and several senior cadets she recognized but had never spoken to. The hero awakens, Vex said, but his usual sarcasm was replaced with genuine respect. You fought like a true warrior. I fought like a desperate human, Young Mi corrected. Same thing, said Cadet Minho, one of the senior students from Professor Dalsu's advanced tactics class. That's what we're beginning to understand. Professor Dalsu approached her bed, his ancient eyes bright with something that might have been pride. Young Mi, what you accomplished yesterday goes far beyond winning a single combat examination. You've started something that can't be stopped. What do you mean? Show her. The professor said to Haijin. Haijin activated a portable display showing news feeds from across the galaxy. Headlines scrolled past in dozens of alien languages, but translation software made them understandable. Human cadet defeats Valthic combat master. Revolutionary fighting techniques challenge military doctrine. The David and Goliath moment that changed everything. Is humanity the missing piece in galactic defense? It's not just news reports, Haijin explained. Military academies on? 6 different worlds have requested copies of your training records. 3 governments have formally inquired about establishing human military exchange programs. Young Mi stared at the flowing text. This can't all be because of one fight. It's not about the fight, Professor Dalsu said. It's about what the fight represents. For centuries, galactic military doctrine has been based on the assumption that bigger, stronger, and more technologically advanced always wins. You proved that assumption wrong. Teho leaned forward. Young Mi, there are cadets here who have started incorporating human tactical principles into their training. Not just a few experimental students, entire classes are requesting instruction in adaptive combat techniques. The instructors are divided, added Minho. About half want to study your methods and integrate them into the curriculum. The other half think you're a dangerous anomaly that threatens good order and discipline. Young Mi felt overwhelmed. I was just trying.